the Streets was Monday, and that's where Ben Askren went out and wrestled Jordan Burroughs inside of Madison Square Garden. They called it the Hulu Theater, which just means they don't think they can sell at the Garden. They drop some curtains down and they rename the theater. Look, inside of Madison Square Garden, 5,500 seats available, 5,500 seats sold, $1.3 million gate. That is the largest gate in the history of wrestling that I know of. And I'm pretty good at this. It's the largest gate that I've ever heard of. That's an average ticket price of $260. Unheard of in wrestling. Plus, they did it on Monday night, an off night. Really spectacular job for a really spectacular cause. My fear as a fan is that the event organizers will stand back and say, my goodness, we just sold out 5,500 seats for a record $1.3 million gate for a fantastic cause with a mid-level card on an off night known as Monday. We have this whole thing figured out. Oh boy, I hope they don't do that, because from a production standpoint, this was garbage. I love the show. Let me start out with I love the show. I give it 2 thumbs up. I'm glad I watched it. This is not a show that belonged on linear. This is not a show that you could take and sell to linear. This is not a show that 365 days from now, I could invite a group of friends over to come over and watch because it's great. This was garbage at the highest of levels. To do a $1.3 million game, I would guess that production cost $12,000. I know that production cost somewhere between $12,000 and $18,000. I know for sure. Been doing this long enough. I know that. To have a $1.3 million gate and to only put that small of a figure into production is something that cannot happen in the future. That it has to be reinvested back. Everybody wants to talk about why wrestling can't be a mainstay sport. You can't be a mainstay sport if you don't look like a mainstay sport. First off, and every event organizer of sport in the history of time that is doing a new event will make this same mistake. I was surprised to see these guys do it. But they're in good company. Everybody does it. They will sell you a ticket for a wrestling event in this case. They will advertise wrestling. You will buy said ticket and you will show up on time and take your seat. Well, that should be a pretty goddamn good clue that you'll want to see wrestling. But the event organizers will always try to offer you something else. Something that wasn't advertised, that you did not purchase. They will then make the assumption that you want to see. In this case, it was a marching band. Not for nothing, it wasn't a very good marching band, but perfectly nice people, I'm sure, that worked perfectly hard on it. I'll leave it at that. We don't want to see that. Nobody paid to see. Nobody counted down their minutes to see that. You forced us to see that. When that got done, guess what they did? Did they start the wrestling? No. They took a timeout. Why did they take a timeout? Because they had to wash the mats. They had to wash the mats because the band showed up in street shoes. The band that never should have been there anyway. Now you have a live sporting event broadcast around the world that takes a timeout before it ever starts. That is a stunning mistake that never should have happened. Stunning. Happens all the time. Sporting events will always think that you want to see something else. Even though they advertised one thing, you agreed to the terms by buying your ticket, showed up to see it, they will always present to you some level of garbage that you don't want to see. This one was no different. The bigger problem, the much bigger problem, is they then had to halt the event yet again to clean the mats. So when the event starts, and there's always a big warm-up, there shouldn't be a warm-up. Beat the Streets, it is one of the most prestigious events that you can get to participate in because it's invite only. They pay a little bit of money. It's in New York. It's streamed. It's advertised. The stars come out. I mean, it's a really, really special event for this space. Every single time a match would conclude, the host of the show, who was fantastic, I must say, everybody that worked on the show, the announcers, the passion, everything that came through, really, really a very good job. The host of the show would say, because he was instructed to say it by the director, "We will be right back." They would then toss to a still shot. So you now have a still shot of New York City with absolutely nothing happening. Any producer that had the sense that God gave geese, if he needed a timeout, now heaven only knows why you would need one. It's live sport. Excuse me, it's live sport. Get the next one out there. I watch high school dual meets. We turn them out one after the next. Production budget, 0. Why they needed a timeout, I don't know. But they would then throw to a still shot. You would have the announcers, the paid hired talent, do what's called fill in the business, which means whatever you're doing in the meanwhile, you just throw the camera down to the announcers and they either talk about what they just saw or they give what's called a tease for what's coming later in the night, what can be expected, or you would take the really big shortcut, which is to play a prepackaged B-roll. You'd play 2 guys training, you play 2 guys arrival shot, you play something that you had that bought you the beat that you needed for whatever it was you needed it for. And I don't know because they threw to a still shot. They didn't even leave the cameras on the arena and let you watch the anticipation or stream it through the fans so you could see the reaction of the audience. They literally said, "We will be right back," and threw to a still shot. Now, if you ever did that in live TV, it's because you have a problem. It's because something happened. You didn't have redundancy. You're airing it over the internet and your internet feed went out. Somewhere in the back, you got to queue up the satellite truck. In between, you throw to a still shot. It would happen once in a lifetime and a good producer would be ready for it. This producer had it happen a grand total of, by design, ahead of time, predetermined, 11 times. 11 different times the host of the show said, and I quote, "We'll be right back." Throws to a still shot during live sport to explain to you, you can't do that. You cannot do that in live sport. You should not do that in pre-recorded broadcasting. But you can. You just shouldn't. You're going to have a bad show and people aren't going to come back and they're not going to watch and your advertisers are going to be, you should. Let me put it in school terms, okay? If you wrote a paper and you had a rundown, you had the run of show and you turn it into your professor in film class and you're doing live sport and you say you're going to take a break, a timeout, and throw to a still, you get an F. If you were doing a pre-recorded broadcast and you turn that in, you would get a D. They would let you do it. You're going to get a bad grade. It's not good. Terrible idea, but you could do it. They did it in live sport by design with no mistake and no reason to do it. Some producer showed up to a production meeting, gave them the run of show, and said after each and every match, say we'll be right back. It's live sport. There's no right back. Here we are. You advertised it for 1 year. It's go time. So go. Run the next match. For God's sakes, bring out the goddamn band nobody wants to see. Do anything but throw to a still. That can't happen. Nowhere in the history of the world does the live gate surpass the viewing audience. Nowhere. So if you're doing 1.3 million in the live house, you better be doing greatly better than 1.3 on the broadcast. I can assure you they did not. I understand it's new, it's different, it's a niche. I get that they did not. But that principle that I just laid out is still true. So invest a little in your product. That producer, you got to renegotiate with him. Now, don't send the check out. That was a terrible job from an amateur. Call him up, renegotiate his fee, pay him, and fire him. We'll be right back. Could you guys even imagine if I did that? We're on a much simpler show over here. Much simpler show. Much less budget, much less moving parts. In fairness, even less anticipation. I'm not once a year. Imagine, guys, if I said right now, I'll be right back. And then silence. Dead air. No level of entertainment. Imagine how many of you are going to be here when old Chael comes back. Then imagine in 2.5 hours, I did that to you 11 times. You guys are going to have some questions to ask. They're probably going to start with me, but then I'm going to turn the gun like anything else. I'm going to ask my producer, why was that the run of show? Why were we not able to fill? Why did we not have prepackaged B-roll? Why did we throw to a still? In this case, you hired a really bad guy who's an amateur, and quite frankly, you tried to save money. That was a $12,000 to $18,000 production. Much closer to 12 than 18. In the future, if we got 1.3 at the gate, we got to put some of that back in, guys. Get to the main event. Oh, and I need to say, As critical as that was, and that was very fair, beyond fair. I was nice right there. Beyond nice. I mean, this was garbage of the high, beyond nice. And I'm a contributor to this. There's never been a year goes by that I don't get asked for a donation, and I make the donation. Okay, so I get a say in this. Robbie Smith. Robbie Smith is good for wrestling, the end. I don't care if it's his championships. I don't care if it's his appearances in the Worlds, his Olympic run, or in this case, on a microphone, his energy, his knowledge, his passion. It's genuine, it's real, and it comes through. Robbie Smith is great for wrestling. Nick Suriano and Joe Colon went to war. I guess Nick won. He had more points. Nobody lost that match. That was one of those matches where just time ran out. Time ran out. You look at the scorecards. Nick's got 3, Joe's got 1, raised Nick's hand. That was a dogfight of the highest of levels. David Taylor hurt his knee. I followed up with him today. Doesn't have an answer. Getting that knee looked at. Novogratz, very cool, very upstanding leadership move. Stepped in and said, we're done here. We came here for fun. This isn't the trials. This isn't Final X. If we're not having fun, we're not doing it. Very cool move. Scary moment. Kyle Snyder goes out. Captain America. One of the greatest wrestlers the sport's ever seen. He's a mid-carder. He's midway through the show. Well, yeah, he's got to be. You brought him in a guy from Canada. Canada's the second worst country in wrestling in the Western Hemisphere. Only one to get a booby prize over Canada would be Mexico, who just simply really doesn't contest the sport. They really don't. You brought a guy from Canada and you didn't even bring their best guy. You could have brought their best guy. He's going to be mid. Nobody wants to see that. Why you would bring in a guy from Canada who everybody knows is terrible and then advertise that it's not even their best guy. It's a bum. Bring 2. Bring 2 guys from Canada, put him against Kyle. He'll still be out of there in less than 3 minutes. And thank goodness in this case he was, because there was simply nothing to see there. But we got to have some better matchmaking done there. If you're going to shell out the money and you're going to buy tickets for guys to fly in from out of country, then bring in a real country. What was the Cuban busy? Was the Iranian busy? Were the 5 different guys in Russia that would have taken that match? But what the hell are we to Canada? Come on, man. You can't sell Canada. And didn't. Which is why he got stuck in the middle. All right, let's fast forward. Get to the co-main. Yanni. One of the best matches I've ever seen. I believe he took on a wrestler from India. Okay. Now, when he took on the India wrestler, one thing about this opponent who happened to be ranked number 1 in the world. Okay. Yanni's a sophomore in college. At this point, it's just a maturity issue. Yanni isn't strong enough to go with a world level guy. Yanni is a boy. Yanni can't get into a bar legally. Yanni put it on him. But one thing about his opponent is his opponent has a gas tank and wants to push the pace. I know if you're Team India, they're going to look at that film and go, okay, wait a minute. We had a blood timeout. We had more blood timeout in this match than we had still shots during the goddamn broadcast. And believe me, there was a lot of them. So they're going to look at that and say, without those breaks, that's going to give us an opportunity. They are going to be wrong. They will absolutely be wrong. You cannot take anybody, no matter how good a shape he is in, that is a freestyle wrestler, and put him against the shape and condition of a collegiate wrestler. There is no better way to train for wrestling. There is no harder sport in wrestling than collegiate wrestling. And every time you bring that up, and every time you bring up the true greats of the sport that went on and did great things, somebody is going to offer, well, Henry Cejudo didn't go to college. Man, I got you. I hear you guys, but you're offering me one guy throughout the history of time. I can offer you 3 guys from Monday night that all got their hands raised, and none of them focus on international. If you allow me 1 month, I will bring 5 guys to this argument, because that'll include the U.S. Open, okay? The greats. John Smith, the Kendall Crosses, the Brands Boys, the Kevin Jacksons, the Kenny Mondays, the Bruce Baumgartners, the greats that this country has ever seen all train the same way. They stuck around a college program. They did the college workout. Then they stuck around for 15 to 20 minutes after with 2 or 3 guys to jump on them when they were in parterre. That's it. Nothing will trump that. And you can always offer this Henry Cejudo argument, and yes, he did something phenomenal, but it was a rarity. I will shove the Adam Kuhn argument right back into your face. You will have to go back to 2008. I will have to go back 11 months. I can bring 3 guys up in the last 72 hours that train the way I just said, that were in better shape and are still in college. I could bring 5 guys up if you let me have the last month. There is no training like a collegiate guy, and I'm telling you this now because UWW and Team India are going to think they can get the jump on Yanni. Had Yanni not had those blood times, I'm telling you right now, if Yanni re-wrestles that guy, if you go rewatch that match, Yanni gave up points that he won't give up again. Yanni could have lost that match. He could have lost that match by tech fall. It could have been 20-10, and I'm still sitting over here gloating on Yanni. A sophomore scored 10 points on the world champion. It happened that it was also more points than the world champion scored on him. But even if you lose the match and you get 10 points as a sophomore on the number 1 ranked guy in the world, you've done something special. Now let's move into the main event. It is Burroughs versus Askren, and every complaint I had about that low-budget production, who better be out of the business before this even hits the airwaves. Somebody had better have the balls to stay. You're not our guy. But he gets full credit for this because the walkouts for Askren and Burroughs were amazing. Time for the main event. They hit the funky music, the Funkarilla, the Funkazilla, the whatever the hell annoying, terrible music that Askren comes out to that's just wonderful. And they walked him out like old school boxing. Now, old school boxing, they didn't use ramps and they didn't use flares and they didn't use pyros. They would walk the people right through the crowd. And the entryway wasn't great, big, and wide. It was very narrow. So now fans on either side can reach over and slap and touch and be close to the boxer. As the viewer, you'll be watching it and go, okay, I see Ben Askren, I don't see Ben. Where's Ben Askren? Oh, there's nothing but, there's Ben Askren. Oh, wait, I can't see Ben. There's people in the way. Oh, wait, I see Ben again. It was awesome. This is how he comes out. He takes his shirt off. He throws his straps up for the first time in 9 years. Then it's time for JB to walk, and it's the same thing. The old boxing walk. He walks, Jordan Burroughs, just, the body that anybody would pay any amount of money to have. He comes out, and you could tell. Everybody knew, now in fairness, by the way, before I tell you how this concluded, for those of you that didn't see it, everybody knew going in how this was going to end. You've got the current best wrestler in the world against a guy who used to wrestle. Significantly different postures. Ben Askren's out there fighting, standing straight up and down. Jordan Burroughs is bent over in a wrestling stance. You can see the way Jordan Burroughs could move his feet in that position. Ben Askren had bent over, his feet were planted. He's not used to moving in that position anymore. He hasn't done it in 9 years. So they go out and, you got to understand, the only real goal that Ben should have had was to get to the second round. If he could get to the second round with Jordan Burroughs, which is something I didn't know if he'd be able to do it. But if he can, that's a major feather in the cap. If he could grab a point or two, wow. The reason I offer you that is I have had people reach out to me on social media through something called direct message asking me, is the psychology of Ben Askren going to be thrown off because of this loss to Jordan Burroughs and then affect his MMA career? No, absolutely not. This was an incredible workout. This was incredible shape. This was incredible condition. This was within striking range of the weight class that he needs to make for the welterweight division. This was a major bonus. This was dealing with the anxiety and the pressures and walking out in front of a sold-out arena, $1.3 million gate in New York on a Monday. This was a workout. For Ben, it was a workout. So no, he's not going to be rattled in the least. The other side of the coin is they did end up in one scramble. One time, they got in a little bit of funk and Ben was starting to come out. And it head to the outside single. He was looking to build. He was looking for a double. He was looking for a crack. He was trying to figure out what to do in that position. And the referee called it dead. Somebody stepped out of bounds. Why would that referee call that? You don't call that dead. We're here to be entertained. Let them wrestle. We want to see that moment. Now, of course, I do not mean that. There are rules. The referee absolutely made the right call. Somebody stepped out of bounds. You have to blow it dead. But that doesn't mean I still can't come back and say I wanted to see the rest of that position. Ben finally had his hands on Jordan Burroughs. We're finally going to see, can he score? Had he not scored there, we will have our answer. He cannot score on Jordan Burroughs. But that was the moment. That was the moment. It only would have given him one. Wasn't going to change the outcome of the match, but that was still a great moment. As a wrestling fan, it was really great. And Jordan represented himself in wrestling very well. When he got done, he had a straight face. He said, look, I know Ben's out here having fun. I know this is a workout for him, but this is my life. This is serious business to me. I took this one serious. I'll take the next one serious. Thanked everybody for coming. Hit the back. perfect ending. Really, really great night. Really, really great night. I come at you hostile because I come at you with a fear, knowing promoters that they will look at what they did, look at they sold out, look at the huge gate they did, and then think we've got it all figured out. No, you don't. Fantastic job, and you absolutely delivered to your live audience, to your charity. Wrestlers, thank you and congratulations. Production, fire the guy. I don't want to see somebody lose their job. I don't mean to be cold, like there's just no other way to do it. That is not the guy for this job. In the future, don't hire a $12,000 production company. In the future. And always keep your eye on the ball. There is no show in the world whose live gate ever surpasses in revenue the stream. In this case, you got crushed. You got to flip that. And don't take your eye off this. Novo, Jesse Jansen, do not take, Christian Pyle, do not take your eye off of this. Max, nobody. Until your stream beats the $1.3 million gate. Until then, no. Great job on part of it. Now let's fix the other part.